What most English learners spend years obsessing over, grammar rules, tense structures, verb conjugations, is actually the biggest trap keeping them from real fluency. Linguamarina, who learned English as a second language herself and moved from Russia to the United States, openly confesses something that shocks millions of her viewers. She makes grammar mistakes every single day, and native speakers don't care. This truth is devastating to traditional English learners who have been sitting in classrooms memorizing rules that real conversations never follow. The brutal reality is that native English speakers break grammar rules constantly. They say, "me and him went there," instead of "he and I went there." They say, "I ain't got nothing." They use incomplete sentences, they mumble, they skip words, yet nobody questions their fluency. Why? Because fluency is about communication. The ability to transfer meaning from one mind to another without hesitation, without freezing, without panic. Linguamarina's core message destroys the illusion that grammar perfection equals fluency. It doesn't. Fluency is the art of making people feel understood. Grammar is just one tool, and not even the most powerful one. This single realization can free millions of learners overnight. Here's a shocking truth that almost nobody in the English learning industry wants to admit. You can watch thousands of hours of English content, read hundreds of books, understand every word a native speaker says, and still completely freeze the moment someone asks you a simple question face to face. This is the illusion of passive fluency, and Linguamarina exposes it mercilessly. Millions of learners feel confident because they understand English content perfectly. They watch American movies without subtitles. They read English articles without a dictionary. They feel fluent until the moment of speaking arrives and everything collapses. The reason is terrifyingly simple. Understanding a language and producing a language are two completely different brain functions. They use different neural pathways. Passive consumption trains your brain to receive. Active speaking trains your brain to produce. These are not the same skill. Linguamarina constantly emphasizes that speaking, even badly, even incorrectly, even awkwardly, is the only real training that creates real fluency. The learners who speak from day one, even with broken English, develop real fluency faster than those who wait until they feel ready. And here's the darkest part. That feeling of readiness almost never comes on its own. One of the most emotionally powerful truths that Linguamarina shares with her audience is this: your accent is not your enemy. Your fear of your accent is, this distinction is not small. It is everything. Millions of English learners around the world refuse to speak because they are terrified of sounding foreign, of being judged, of being laughed at, of being seen as less intelligent because their pronunciation doesn't sound like a Hollywood actor. But Linguamarina, speaking with her own Russian accent on camera to millions of viewers, proves every single day that accent has zero power to stop success. She built a YouTube channel with millions of subscribers. She communicates with native speakers daily. She works, lives, and thrives in English with an accent. The research on this topic is equally shocking. Studies show that native speakers can perfectly understand non-native accents in most cases, and what actually breaks communication is not accent but confidence. When a speaker hesitates, mumbles, loses eye contact, and shrinks because of accent shame, that is what creates misunderstanding, not the accent itself. Linguamarina's life is living proof that your accent is your identity, not your limitation. Carrying it with confidence transforms it from weakness into character. Linguamarina teaches something that completely rewires how people think about learning English. You don't need to live in an English-speaking country to become fluent. You need to build an English-speaking environment wherever you are. This sounds simple. The reality of what it demands is shocking. It means changing your phone language to English. It means thinking in English, narrating your daily actions in your mind in English while you cook, drive, and walk. It means replacing your entertainment, the shows you binge, the music you play, the podcasts you hear during commutes, entirely with English content. It means finding online communities where English is the language of communication. It means journaling in English, dreaming in English, arguing with yourself in English, Most learners are not willing to do this because it feels uncomfortable and strange at first, but this is exactly the point. The discomfort is the learning. Linguamarina's own journey from Russia to American English fluency was built on this principle of environmental immersion. She didn't wait for the perfect opportunity or the perfect teacher. She engineered her entire daily life to make English unavoidable. The environment became the teacher, and the results were undeniable and irreversible. Here is a number that will completely shatter what you thought you knew about English fluency. 3,000 words. Just 3,000 words cover approximately 95% of everyday spoken English conversations. This is a fact supported by linguistic research, and it completely destroys the common belief that you need a massive, sophisticated vocabulary to sound fluent. Linguamarina openly teaches this, and it shocks her viewers every time. Most intermediate English learners already know between 2,000 and 4,000 words, yet they still don't feel fluent. Why? Because vocabulary is not the problem. The problem is not knowing how to connect those words naturally, how to use them at the right speed, how to choose between synonyms instinctively, and how to string them together in real time without pausing to mentally translate from their native language first. This is the fluency gap, the space between knowing words and using them automatically. Linguamarina's approach focuses on high-frequency vocabulary used in natural, real-world contexts rather than academic lists and formal dictionaries. Learning the 3,000 most common English words and practicing them in real conversations is dramatically more effective than memorizing 10,000 words you will never use. Simplicity, done powerfully, beats complexity done nervously every single time in real conversation. The final and perhaps most psychologically powerful truth that Linguamarina reveals is one that academic English teachers almost never discuss. Your emotional relationship with the English language determines how fast your brain absorbs it. This is not motivational fluff, this is neuroscience. The brain is hardwired to retain information that is emotionally charged. When something makes you laugh, cry, feel excited, feel afraid, or feel deeply curious, your brain tags that memory as important and stores it with remarkable depth and permanence. This is why Linguamarina encourages learners to find English content they genuinely love. Not content that is educational, but content that creates real emotional reactions. If you love drama, watch American drama series. If you love comedy, follow American comedians. If you love true crime, listen to English true crime podcasts. The moment English stops being a subject you study and starts being a language you feel, everything accelerates. Words stick without effort, phrases become natural without drilling, rhythm and tone become instinctive without practice exercises. Linguamarina's own emotional journey, leaving her country, building a life in a foreign language, falling in love with English storytelling, is inseparable from her fluency. Emotion is not a bonus in language learning. It is the engine. What if everything you have been taught about learning English, every rule, every textbook, every grammar exercise, every pronunciation drill, was not just ineffective, but was actually the very thing keeping you trapped in mediocrity? What if the students who score perfect marks on English exams are the ones who freeze the hardest in real conversations, while the students who were told they were average become the ones speaking confidently with native speakers across the world? What if fluency was never about perfection? What if it was always about something far more powerful, far more dangerous, and far more accessible than any classroom ever told you? There is a woman who left Russia with broken English, landed in America, faced rejection, faced judgment, faced the terrifying silence of not being understood. And instead of retreating, she studied the psychology of fluency the way a general studies a battlefield. She decoded what actually works. She exposed what is completely useless. And she built a following of millions who call her their most trusted English teacher. Her name is Linguamarina, and what she knows about fluency will change how you think, speak, and fight forever. Stay until the end, because what comes next is not motivation. It is a strategy, and strategies, real ones, change lives. What if the single greatest obstacle between you and English fluency is not your grammar, not your accent, not your vocabulary, but the lies you were told before you even spoke your first English sentence? This is not a comfortable idea. Comfortable ideas do not produce fluent speakers. They produce learners who spend 10 years studying English and still apologize before every sentence they speak. They produce intelligent, capable, powerful people who shrink the moment a native speaker walks into the room. They produce victims, not masters. The great strategists of history understood one principle above all others. Before you can win a war, you must first understand the battlefield. You must see it as it truly is, not as your teachers described it, not as the textbooks painted it, not as your fear imagined it, the battlefield as it truly is. And the battlefield of English fluency, as Linguamarina has spent years revealing, looks nothing like what most learners have been told. Let us begin with the first and most devastating truth. Grammar is not fluency. Say that again. Grammar is not fluency. This is perhaps the most radical idea in modern language learning, and yet the evidence for it is everywhere, hiding in plain sight. Native English speakers, the very people whose English you are trying to imitate, break grammar rules daily, hourly, in every casual conversation they have. They say things that would fail a grammar test. They use slang, they speak in fragments, they contradict every rule that was drilled into your mind during years of formal education. And nobody questions their fluency. Nobody interrupts them. Nobody judges them. Because communication happened. Meaning was transferred. Connection was made. This is what Linguamarina understood from her own experience arriving in America, that the game was never about correctness. The game was always about connection. The learners who wait until their grammar is perfect before they speak are waiting for a permission that will never come. Because perfection in language is a myth invented by those who want to keep you studying rather than speaking, keep you consuming rather than creating, keep you preparing rather than performing. The strategist does not wait for perfect conditions. The strategist acts with what is available and refines through action. Fear is a manufactured prison, not a natural state. What if I told you that the fear of speaking English is not something you were born with? It was installed in you, like a virus in a computer, slowly corrupting every attempt you make to communicate? Linguamarina, one of the most powerful English learning voices on the internet, understood something that most language teachers deliberately ignore. Fear of speaking is not about intelligence, it is about conditioning. From childhood, schools punish mistakes. Teachers mark red circles on wrong answers. Classmates laugh at mispronunciations. Over years and years, your brain creates an automatic defense mechanism. Stay silent, stay safe. But here's the brutal truth. Silence in English is not safety. Silence is surrender. It is you handing over your power to an invisible enemy that never existed in the first place. Linguamarina's entire philosophy begins at this foundation. Identify the prison first, then destroy the walls.